everybody! Yes, that's right, we're back! It's time for yet another instalment of Biology from the Bedroom during these unprecedented circumstances. And how things have changed since we last spoke. Now, we have the luxury of being able to sunbathe wherever we like, go fishing wherever we like, and play golf. Oh, what bliss. I was actually going to film this episode from my local angling retreat just to make you all feel jealous. But then again, Biology from the Woodlands Fishing Lake in Almondsbury doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? Anyway, who is today's victim? Her name is Eleanor Stroud, an avian ecologist from the University of Aberdeen. Eleanor completed her first degree in biology at the University of Lancaster, where she conducted research on the ecology of little egrets. Since then, her deep passion for ornithology has led her to a PhD topic where she's investigating the factors influencing the microbiome of the fulmar, a long-lived seabird species. Now, I don't know about you, this all just seems like a sneaky plan for Eleanor to spend more time getting a nice tan on the beach, so I reckon she's got a lot of explaining to do. So, without further ado, let's invite potential science leader of the future, Eleanor Stroud, into my bedroom. Hello Eleanor, how are we doing?
Hi Benita, hi, I'm pretty good all in all.
That's good to know. But if you were to summarise perhaps this whole global pandemic in one word maybe, what would that word be? I don't know, just to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'd have to go with unprecedented.
Unprecedented, that's a good one. That's a good one, I'll add that to the list, most certainly. Now, Eleanor, there's one thing that springs to mind when I think of you, and that is birds. I'm sorry, you're just absolutely obsessed with birds, aren't you? So, do you want to start off by just telling us where that passion for birds and bird ringing came from?
Well, I'm not entirely sure where it started. It probably started quite young. It was definitely just watching garden birds, and then you kind of go on from there. You notice them while you're out and about. I'd always been kind of interested in seeing them more up close, and when I got to about the age of 14, the opportunity came up for me to attend a ringing demonstration at my local nature reserve, and it all kind of barrel rolled from there. I recently got my next ringing permit up, so yeah.
Party, except we can't.
Exactly.
So now you are doing your PhD, and the study organism for your PhD is the fulmar. Now, I've heard that the fulmar is a member of the albatross family, which sounds quite cool, and they live right here in the UK. So, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction on what a fulmar is and how they're similar to albatrosses?
When you say the albatross family, we refer to them as procellariforms, and basically...
Goodness me, that's what you pay your taxes for, isn't it?
They're also referred to as tube noses, and as you can imagine, they have little tubes on their nose. They're not actually for breathing out of, they're for excreting salt, which means that they can drink seawater, or ingest more seawater, I suppose.
Interesting. Well, they seem to be very well adapted to a life at sea. They can extract salt from the water, which means they've got a ready supply of salt if they want to put on their fish and chips, which is very useful. But yeah, they are very different to gulls, aren't they? Because I remember once I tried to get a room for the night in a hotel run by seagulls. The seagull replied, "We're fulmar, love." And then the grimiest bird in the sea came up. That was the Stormzy petrel. Anyway, where do fulmars typically live? Are they found all across the UK, or are they quite locally distributed?
They're fairly locally distributed. They generally breed in colonies, which means that basically you've either got fulmars or you haven't.
That old saying.
As they all say.
So you're specifically investigating their microbiome. Is that right? I mentioned that word earlier. Why? Are you worried that they haven't been eating enough yogurt or what? I don't know. Why are you specifically interested in their microbiome?
Well, microbiome has been really quite important in a lot of scientific studies recently. They've found out an awful lot about how it affects the body, and it's had much greater impact than anybody really thought it would have. But the thing about all the studies on microbiome is that primarily they've focused on humans, and primarily they've focused on other kind of lab species. You've got a lot of studies in rats, you've got some studies in Drosophila, but studying stuff like microbiome in wild populations is a lot more difficult. Specifically birds in general, there's actually very little information out there about their microbiomes. We're studying the fulmar because they are so long-lived. They're generally monogamous birds. One of the theories surrounding microbiome is that because of course microbiome is affected by the immune system, because these birds have incredible olfactory capabilities, they could detect the volatiles given off by the microbiome and therefore infer things about the immune system.
That is something which I find really, really interesting, actually, because there's this area of the immune system called the MHC, isn't there? The major histocompatibility complex, which is another technical term which people pay their taxes for, I have to say. And people have done experiments with humans. There's this famous experiment called the sweaty t-shirt experiment. Isn't there?
Yes.
So are you predicting that something similar is happening in the fulmars?
We certainly think that it's a possibility, and it's quite a complex thing to investigate. Currently we're trying to characterise this area of the genome, the MHC, in the fulmars, so that's proving a fair challenge in and of itself. But hopefully when we can get that up and running, we can run some comparisons with the microbiome once we get out there into the field.
Is a fulmar very smelly? Have you smelt a fulmar yet?
Oh, they are incredibly smelly.
Yeah.
I have handled fulmars in the past, and fulmars on their own are just fine. They smell about what you would expect birds to smell like. But unfortunately they have a rather bad habit of vomiting at you. You kind of hear about it in books and you think, really, how bad can it be? It's bad. Yeah. It's
Oh, goodness
they have
me.
some range on them, let's put it like that. You think when you read about it, they can't possibly shoot vomit that far. They can and they do. So
Goodness me, and that makes it even more difficult because, of course, these birds nest on cliff edges, so you're being vomited at whilst dangling off a cliff, or, I mean, how else are you accessing these birds, Eleanor?
We are primarily on cliffs, but on the small islands that they generally choose to nest on, sometimes all the good cliff spots are taken, and they will nest kind of in the corners of walls.
That's handy.
That is very handy, because if they were primarily cliff-based, if they were something like gannets or other seabirds, then they would just be inaccessible. But fulmars in general are reasonably easy if they're on an island without predators, because they will nest in the relative open, thankfully.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room then. This global pandemic. I imagine the COVID-19 pandemic is causing seabird research to take a turn for the worst. See what I did there? Get it? So how has this affected you?
Well, obviously, I should be sitting on an island on Orkney right now, surrounded by seabirds. So obviously my fieldwork has taken a turn for the worse. But as any first-year student who's currently undergoing this will know, there's always writing to do. So I'm currently working on my introduction, but I won't deny that it has been disruptive. And we all say that it could be worse, and it definitely could be. But it has been distinctly annoying, and I feel like we should all take a moment to be annoyed by the pandemic.
Yes, we should. But annoyed together, and that makes it slightly better, I suppose.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, who probably isn't annoyed, the fulmars. They're probably having a lovely year.
The fulmars are thrilled.
Yeah.
Strange people haven't turned up with the rings, so...
But also on Biology from the Bedroom, we want to highlight that sometimes research isn't plain sailing, right? Sometimes early career researchers are made to look like total idiots, and that's okay. It's something which I can relate to, but, it's my podcast. You're not going to ask me, Eleanor, so I'm going to ask you. Have there been any times where you've just felt like a total fool, or when something just hasn't quite gone to plan?
There was a particular time in my undergrad when an experiment went slightly awry. It's the summer holiday. The rest of the ecology students have all gone off to a field trip in Scotland, but I am stuck indoors, prodding small insects into Y tubes to study their behaviour. I had a petri dish of aphids, and I was studying aphids and their predators, which are lacewing larvae. And I don't know if you've ever seen lacewing larvae, but they've got these two massive mandibles sticking out the front, and they're generally very wriggly and very opposed to sitting in Y tubes. So, just on accident, while I was transferring these insects around, a lacewing larvae fell off the tip of the pencil that I was using to transfer them and into the petri dish full of aphids.
Oh no.
It looked like a dog that had got a scent. It actually perked up and it was sniffing around. I watched as it picked up the scent of an aphid that had been walking by it. It followed the aphid exactly where it had gone, and as soon as it reached it, it lunged forwards, stabbed it with its two pincers, and before my horrified eyes, it flailed it around like a lion with a wildebeest. It was nature in miniature in my petri dish.
Oh my god, well, I was just about to say, I think you need to get David Attenborough on the line, because that sounds pretty horrendous.
I did not anticipate the level of ferocity 1 centimetre insect can achieve, but...
Well, that is a quote and a half, isn't it? Anyway, also on Biology from the Bedroom, we want to put our contestants through their paces. Contestants? I don't know why I called you a contestant, but now you're now a contestant, Eleanor. We're on a mission to find the most promising, young research biologist in the country. And in order to do that, we have to put you through the cryptic question clock quiz.
Oh, cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be?
This is a section of the show where you have to answer as many biology-related questions as you can in 60 seconds. But there's an added twist, and that is the cryptic question.
Oh, cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be?
One of the answers to the questions I'm about to ask you is also an answer to a question in a non-biology related area. And this week, that non-biology related area is H&M. Are you a fan of H&M, Eleanor?
I wouldn't call myself a fan of H&M, but I think I can give it a good shot.
Lovely.
The answer could be t-shirt or something.
Indeed, exactly. Like smelly t-shirt experiment, but that's not one of the questions. Anyway, so for this, obviously we need a signature buzzer for you to alert me if you spot the cryptic question. Now, you love birds, Eleanor, there's no doubt about that, and you've had some incredible encounters with birds over the years. So, Eleanor, your buzzer shall be the sound you would make after being chased by a sexually aroused capercaillie. Can you give me an indication on what that might sound like, please, Eleanor? Perfect. Well, without further ado, are you ready to face the cryptic question clock quiz, Eleanor?
As ready as I'll ever be, Benito.
In that case, your time starts now. What organ allows animals to see?
The eye.
Correct. The process by which plants convert light energy into food is known by what name?
Photosynthesis.
Correct. Name 3 species of British reptile.
The sand lizard, the adder, and the slow worm.
Correct. What is the name given to the protein which transports oxygen in red blood cells?
Hemoglobin.
Correct. In immunology, what cell released by the thymus gland is involved in the cell-mediated response?
The T cell.
Correct. In neurobiology, what is the passage of an impulse along an axon, also known as?
Oh no. Can I pass?
Yep. A mimic which resembles a toxic species without being toxic itself is known as what kind of mimic?
Oh no. Pass again, sorry.
The muscular thick wall in a bird's stomach used for grinding food is known as what?
The crop.
Incorrect. What kind of animals are elasmobranchs?
Are they sharks?
Correct. But overall, you got a pretty respectable 6 points, Eleanor, which puts you in joint second place on the Cryptic Question Clock Quiz leaderboard. Now, of course, you weren't able to spot the Cryptic Question on H&M. The fourth question I asked you, Eleanor, was what is the name given to the protein which transports oxygen in red blood cells? And you said...
Hemoglobin. Sorry.
Hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin, of course, contains the letters H and M. Unfortunately, you didn't get that. Never mind. Anyway, since we've all been in lockdown, I thought I'd fill my time by keeping a colony of fulmars all to my own. I don't know. What I've been doing with them is that I've been teaching them other bird songs. Just for a bit of fun to keep ornithologists like yourself on their toes. Okay?
All right.
Just from this audio clip, can you tell me what bird song my colony of fulmars are imitating, please?
Well, my best guess would probably be some kind of a petrel species. So I'm going to go with storm petrel.
Storm petrel, the Stormzy petrel. It's a good guess, but incorrect, I'm afraid, Ellen. The correct answer was I'm Like a Bird by Nelly Furtado. Never mind. They're not that good at it, I'll be honest with you. They need a little bit more practice. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the show. And what are your other interests, Eleanor? What do you like getting up to when you're not bird rigging or getting vomited on by fulmars?
Well, I do love being out in nature, and I really enjoy hill walking. Not much possibility of that at the moment, but I'm hoping to get out into the wilds of Scotland at some point.
I often find, though, once you really get addicted to hill walking, it's a downward slope from there. Anyway, we are coming up to the end of the show, Eleanor, unfortunately, but we like to end on a bit of music. So if you were to end the show with a particular song, what would that be and why?
Well, it's not the most upbeat song in the world, but I would end the show with "Arrival of the Birds," which was initially the track to a nature documentary about flamingos. But the reason I would do that was because I have found a 10-hour mix of it on YouTube, and it is the best thing to write to in my entire compendium. So I advise writing to that. It's very calming.
Very interesting. I think we've just actually found out that we might have copyright permission to that. But unfortunately, it's 10 hours, isn't it?
It is 10 hours.
This is a 20-minute podcast. Well, here is Arrival of the Birds, the 10-hour long version, speeded up 100 times. Oh, wasn't that amazing?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks very much for having me on, Benito.
Yeah, thank you, Eleanor, for coming on, and best of luck with the rest of your research.
Thank you.
Join me next week where I'll be putting another prominent PhD student through their biological paces as we get even closer to finding the most promising young research biologist in the country. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe for more wildlife and science-related content. In the meantime, I need to make it quite clear to one of my pet fulmars to stop sitting on my omelette. See you next time, everybody!